Hi, I'm Dave.
Hi, I'm Robin.
Welcome
to Schoolwide Download.
All right, welcome back to Schoolwide Download. I am Robin.
And I'm Dave, and today we're going to step into a conversation. We'll keep it at that. It's a conversation that gets people fired up pretty quickly.
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about equity or illusion. So does EdTech really close the gap for students, and are we really being equitable with it? So I can see right away where you can take this and we can go on a tangent on our own feelings on this, but we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it to the script and keep it pretty chill.
Right, because we're kind of, the discussion is provide students with devices. Everybody has the same device.
Same chances.
We've leveled the playing field.
But have we really? Okay, so we're going to dive into this. And we've also got, I've got a great book, EdTech for the K-12 classroom. And one of the chapters, Ken Shelton wrote, and it was based on this exact topic. It's called Turning AI into a Tool for Equity. And a little bit about Ken Shelton. He is an educator, consultant, designer for 20 years. Most of his time was in the classroom with technology as a middle school technology teacher. Now he does keynotes, presentations. I actually listened to him at ISTE last year. He was on one of the panels. And so I've met him.
That's right.
And he raises a lot of good points with this.
So kind of through our conversation, we'll hit on things, does technology actually close equity gaps? Or is it actually doing the opposite? Is it widening them? Yeah,
and we're not talking about tools. We're not going into specifics. We're not going to say this tool is better than this tool or this one's got, more. We're not going there. We're just looking at it like overall. Technology as a whole. Right,
and unavoidably, we are going to talk about things that I think figure into this equation, which would be things like access, implementation or usage in the classroom and out.
Within
because
districts?
if you have a device, you just take it home with you.
Yeah.
So then everybody has access to curriculum 24/7. We'll talk about is that an accurate statement? One of the things that I think, once again, like you said, Robin, we're not blaming tools or anything like that, but one of the things we do want to look at when it comes to this through the lens of equity is teacher training. What types of supports do teachers have at their availability? What types of supports do tech departments, do school districts, does the vendor provide? Who gets supported? Does everybody get supported?
Because we're in a lot of different districts, and I'm always amazed at the difference between districts. I can be in a very large district, I can be in a rural district, and there is a difference within their technology capabilities, what they have access to, huge differences. And so Ken Shelton, he says technology itself is not equitable. Equity comes from the decisions we make about how it's used. Okay. So when you said you give everybody a Chromebook, that levels the playing field, he's saying it's not so much about the technology itself, it's about how we utilize that technology.
Well, so as we transition kind of into the meat of our discussion, I do think that unfortunately, I wish we didn't, but unfortunately, we do have a lens to look through at how this worked, and it was called a pandemic.
Yeah, very much so.
So you were in a district.
I was.
I was here, so I was providing support for different districts throughout Butler County, and I think we all got a pretty clear picture of, I think, something that may come up, which is, in theory, everybody had devices.
Yeah.
But how did I don't remember necessarily a tremendous number of glowing reviews.
So I can tell you, everybody took their device home that day. It was like, I think at recess at 2:10, they decided to shut everything down. So everyone took their device, and then the next week was followed up with everyone received hotspots because the building I was at, no one had internet access. So the device was useless because they didn't have internet. So then we were providing hotspots. So is that equitable? Just because we have a laptop on everybody's desk, a Chromebook, one-to-one, that doesn't mean when they go home, they still have that same access. And I can tell you from just my experience,
They do not.
my building did not, and there was other buildings that I had colleagues and friends, their class 100% were joining them virtually. And so same district, different building, but they were 100%, maybe missing one or two kids.
Yep.
I, on the other hand, had only one or two kids join.
Right, and I think, you mentioned Ken Shelton. I mean, he says this very clearly, I think, in support of what we just kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
It's when we confuse access with equity, we ignore the systems that shape the student experience.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it is real well, hey, everybody's going home with a device. We got this.
We did it.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah. It even if you take away technology and I'm going to go back like even before technology, it's even like help at home. You have the kids that have the support at home, so they've got somebody reading with them every night, somebody ensuring they do their homework, and then you've got the kids that go home and they're taking care of their siblings. So when you look at equity on that end of it, every household looks different, and so we can't just expect everybody to be like, I sent the homework home, I sent the book home, that they have that support, and that's kind of the same idea.
So based on what you just said, you talked about adult support. We've mentioned teacher support. We've talked about access, whether that's Wi-Fi. We've mentioned devices. That seems to be the pretty easy one to navigate. So two students can have the same tool,
right,
and a completely different outcome.
Absolutely. We didn't even touch language barriers.
Right.
And in our schools, we have so many diverse learners, and we have the opportunity to learn from all those diverse learners and learners coming from all over the country, which is amazing because it's just like celebrating all the different cultures. But then looking at that language barrier too, like just because you're sending that home or that device, or that means that the parents understand and can translate what that means and what that looks like.
Right. So if we move this piece of instruction into, let's call it the online space.
Yeah.
In a classroom, I can assess, I can direct, I can teach, I can coach. I can do that in a lot of different ways. It's the same thing in a virtual or remote or an online space.
Yeah.
You and I can use the same curriculum, we can use the same tool, but is it not a fair statement that what that looks like in your classroom versus mine could be completely different?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And just delivery alone,
right.
Wouldn't you say?
So for example, just to play this out, in my classroom, I could give the opportunity for kids to create, higher up on Bloom's.
Yeah.
I can give them student voice in determining the problem or the thing that we're going to talk about, and I can give them choice. Well, you could, just to play devil's advocate, in your classroom with the same content.
I could just be drilling and killing and compliance and make sure you're doing this and recall. And we could be teaching the same standard, but it's just that delivery of what you're letting them have the autonomy to create and that higher, like you just said, blooms. And I'm just doing the basic recall. And you're exactly right.
So to go back to Ken, Mr. Shelton, to use another thing to kind of frame the next part of this discussion, if technology is only used to control a student, to monitor a student, or to remediate certain students, it reinforces inequity rather than disrupt it.
Wow. Yeah. That's important. So it's used to control, monitor, or remediate certain students. You're using technology for that reason.
Right. So, because equity isn't about what students use, it's about what they're asked to do with it. And I think one of the things that comes into play with things going on in the classroom right now, at least makes me think of controlling, monitoring, remediating. It's one of the big debates out there, which is using AI to make sure that was actually student work.
So an AI detector.
Correct.
So it's interesting that you say that because in his book, he is talking about studies have shown that these tools are more likely to incorrectly flag work by multilingual learners or Black students as AI generated compared to their white monolingual peers. And so to me, that's saying that the detector is detecting the way that the student is inputting the information, right? Am I right when saying that?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's saying that they are detecting it as flagged as AI detected using AI, but really it's more about the language or the way that they're putting it, the wording they're using is flagging it. And he also says that in his opinion, AI detectors are about 20%, average efficacy rate, AI detectors are about 20%. So he said it's like a hammer looking for a nail. So that only 20% of the time it's accurate.
And as a teacher, let me put it this way, what teacher would be comfortable using a tool to provide a understandable service to make sure that student work is original work? I'm not devaluing the need for that, but what teacher is going to use a tool that, to use that particular quotation, there's an 80% chance that the tool could be completely off or a little. I'm not sure I'm willing.
What does that do to the student? Like, if it's inaccurately,
the damage you could do to the student.
That's kind of what I was just thinking.
The work.
Especially if it's a student that maybe doesn't feel very comfortable in the class anyway. Or, I mean, I'm thinking about like a multilingual student or learner, like maybe they're already trying to process and do different things, and they're already feeling that uncomfortability and trying to like manage that, which to me, multilingual, that's amazing that you can speak 2 languages. Like I can't do that.
Yep.
But you're managing that, and then you're being accused of using AI and you didn't. You're gonna shut down immediately.
Yeah, I mean,
and is that equitable?
And that damage could extend beyond that week, that month, that school year. That
absolutely,
you have a teacher that basically, depending upon to what extent that battle is fought, it could be awfully damaged. So another way to look at this, as far as a place where we may not have the equity that we think we do, comes into the area of training.
Yeah. Because teachers are often just handed these tools or these programs or AI, and they're just like, here, try, let's go. I mean, we're just at that place. It's coming so rapidly.
Right.
But really giving them the training to understand, especially when you were talking about AI detectors, I just think it's so, we're not really looking too closely at what that detector is detecting and how it's detecting. We just want something to catch these students. Why not instead have that conversation with the student? We've said this over and over again in these episodes, that instead of using a detector, just have a conversation with the student. I'm pretty sure that you can figure out pretty quickly if they've used AI to create something.
Yeah, and we don't want to promote, not that we're not saying that academic dishonesty is something that we need to monitor, but if we spend all our time catching somebody doing something wrong, not necessarily the classroom culture that we're looking to create. So another way to look at this through the words of Ken Shelton, without intentional professional learning, technology amplifies existing inequities instead of addressing them. So, I mean, and that inequity can be from the student level or from the classroom teacher level. In your classroom, you have time to really learn the tool, implement it effectively, whether it's a classroom versus classroom, a building versus a building, or a district versus a district. It's just not everything is being done with the same fidelity in all those different places.
And I do think, again, it's because one of the reasons is just how rapidly it has hit us with all of these AI tools and the technology, and in like the pandemic, everybody was one-to-one. Everything happened so fast. I don't really think it's a fault of anybody. It just happened so quickly that the training wasn't in place, and unfortunately, we weren't thinking about being equitable. That didn't come into play.
Thinking about survival.
I think you're right. And so, like, now looking at it, now we're kind of looking back, 3-4 years later, like, oh wait, now we need to do that work. Because that's definitely, we see it in schools that we're in.
So let's shift and let's just have a little, let's just play out a little debate. Okay. So I'm going to make a statement. Is EdTech neutral, or does it reflect our biases? All right, so I'm going to go first. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. Okay. Aren't technology tools neutral? Isn't it about how people choose to use them?
I think that the tools are not neutral. I do not think. I think they tend to lean, for example, if you ask an image creator, like if I go on a tool, ChatGPT, Gemini, and I say, I need an image of a teacher, let's say, I pretty confidently can say that it's going to 8 out of 10 times give me probably this white woman as the teacher.
I'm just going to say male or female.
Yeah, female.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's, do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could take it the other way. I could say I need an image of a doctor. What do you think it's going to give you?
I'm going to say it's going to be a male. Mm-hmm. And probably the same race. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I know some of the earlier versions of these tools had some obvious issues that arose from that. So absolutely. So the issue isn't necessarily, there is some issues embedded within the technology.
Right.
But it's oftentimes, it's the expectations of the result.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and maybe it has a little bit to do with the prompting. I mean, we can teach students to be able to prompt it so that you get. But again, if we're telling students that they have to prompt it, or I'm telling a teacher that they have to prompt it, isn't that showing you that the tool isn't equitable? It's.
So then you're engineering it to provide a reasonable outcome, because if you don't give it enough information,
right,
it's going to rely on.
The prompt needs to be clear, concise, but like that again, showing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, equity requires us to examine who benefits from technology and who is burdened by it.
And one of the things that I think has always been one of the essential aspects of adding technology into education is to lessen burdens, to better things that were inequitable. So,
because we're now just telling you right now, we're just saying, on top of everything else you're doing, also keep in mind to be, cognizant of this as well. I mean, you're right. We're adding another layer.
So I guess one way of looking at this, the real question then becomes, are we using EdTech to expand opportunity, or are we just digitizing old inequities? It's just not on paper now. It's ones and zeros that have been.
So you're saying
digital.
It's already kind of been there. We're just now, it's just in the digital space.
Yeah, and the thing that makes me think of is, when you talk about different levels, let's make, if you're saying, let's make this work a little bit more rigorous. Okay, well, instead of writing down the vocabulary words, we're going to type them. There's nothing changed.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
So, I don't know.
So what can we try for tomorrow? So here's a simple equity check that educators and leaders can try tomorrow. So what can we do, Dave?
All right. So pick an EdTech tool that you're already using, and there's 3 questions that you can ask that might provide you with some insights. Who gets to create with this tool, and who only consumes? Okay. So if it's only consumption, not creation, your level of rigor, your level in the hierarchy isn't all that beneficial. Who receives support using it, and who is expected to just figure it out? In other words, do you have 2 tiers of do you tell, do you literally tell, you guys got it, just go figure it out. I know you can do that.
And keeping in mind, some students might need that support.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then I think one age-old question that we're just putting it into a digital space now is, whose voices are being amplified by this, and whose are missing? So, I think sometimes when we look at some social media things, you hear that, what's it called? You can be a keyboard hero, you don't have any fear because you're hiding behind a screen. But sometimes I think that's also an opportunity that's not in anyone's benefit, that kids kind of disappear.
And I think if you're feeling a little uneven with this, of all those questions, if any of those 3 questions, what you're doing, you're thinking, ooh, I don't know. I don't want you to feel like it's a failure, like you
No.
are not being like you're not thinking of your students.
Right.
But it's more about feedback. Like you're just thinking, you know what? I just need to be a little more cognizant of all my students and making sure that just because they each are one-to-one with the Chromebook, that everybody's a level playing field. That we are thinking of all students.
And I think if you're reflecting on this, then you're doing the right thing already. Because then you are absolutely embodying the fact that you're looking to constantly tweak and adjust and iterate and improve your teaching practice to reach as many kids as possible. 100%. So in wrapping up this episode, let me kind of start where we were. So does EdTech widen the equity gap?
I think it can. I think if we stop at access and just assume that we're being equitable, I think it can widen the gap. I think we need to be more explicit in expanding that, or give it more than just the access. We don't ignore the implementation and the training. So I think it's not about just handing them that and saying, yep, I'm being equitable. I'm giving everybody the device. Really thinking about that implementation and that training.
So if we have training, if we're using with intentionality, it is an opportunity to expand voice.
Yeah.
It is an opportunity for kids that might be extremely creative in a digital space. It can provide opportunities.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure that we're looking to do that and not assuming that it's happening.
Yeah, it's not about the tool, it's about the choices I think we make.
I agree. All right, so that concludes this episode. Thanks for joining us, and make sure if you have any comments, suggestions, or feedback, leave that on our YouTube platform, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.